We are going to admit our guest for the afternoon. She is, of course, a former Seattle City Council member, the founder of Workers Strike Back, and currently a candidate for Washington's 9th Congressional District, running for U.S. Congress against incumbent Democrat Adam Smith. Our friend Kshama Sawant is back. Kshama, great to see you again.
Hey,
Thank you for
Kshama.
having me. Great to see you guys.
Of course.
Great seeing you.
Great to see you. You had reached out. We had put this together last week. For me, at least, speaking for myself, not with the expectation that we'd be talking about Zohran Mamdani. I was quite surprised by the results on Tuesday night. Didn't come out of nowhere, but I thought it was a less than 50-50 chance that it would happen, just because I have no faith whatsoever in the Democratic Party or their voters, or Democratic primary voters, especially those in New York. But he pulled it out, and I caught some of your interview with Nick on RBN yesterday, and so I got a little bit of your perspective, but I did not watch the whole thing. So what is your reaction to this pretty shocking upset victory by Zohran Mamdani in New York?
I think, first of all, it's a pretty stinging rebuke of the Zionists. And also this idea that if you are if you run as a candidate against war, against imperialist war, and with a record of having opposed genocide, somehow you don't have any prospects of winning. Well, that's put paid to by this upset victory. It also shows that you can have a campaign with very clear and open working class demands and also win. So, it really shows, I think, most of all, that there is a huge opening. It shows what we've been saying, what Worker Strike Back has been saying for a while, and what I've been saying for almost 15 years now. And we've shown through our own example on the city council, having won 4 elections and having won historic victories, that this is the period where there's a huge opening, where the working class is angry. That's not a problem. The problem is, where's the leadership to harness that anger? And so I think this election victory, this primary election victory really is a resounding example of how there is a massive opening for working class, anti-war, anti-genocide politics. It also shows the effectiveness of having a very strong field campaign and a strong social media strategy. I think all of that is very important. That's shown by this campaign.
Yeah, it helps if your opponent is a sex criminal.
Yeah, that too.
Yes, that's another thing it shows. Actually, I mentioned this on RBN yesterday, that it's also a repudiation of those union leaders who supported Cuomo. Can you imagine what kind of union leader do you have to be, and what kind of in what way are you representing your members, let alone the working class as a whole, if you can endorse someone like Cuomo, who has scandal after scandal after scandal to his name, whether it's against the working class, COVID patients, or against women whom he has sexually harassed. So all of this is just an indictment of the labor strategy, really, of supporting this sort of the old guard of the Democratic Party, which has sold out working class people again and again. And I think that we need to put a fine point on it. It wasn't an isolated union leadership. And I'm specifically saying leadership because working class people and rank and file union members are angry about a lot of things. So it's very clearly, it's at the doorstep of the leadership that endorse. And as I said, it's not an isolated union here and there. SEIU, UFCW, Teamsters, RWDSU. This is the union that ran an
the carpenters
unionized in Alabama. Yeah, Amazon workers. So these are unions that represent some of the most vulnerable workers, some of the workers who carry the biggest load of making society run and get the least pay in return for that. And to turn around and endorse someone like Cuomo, shame on you, and good that this result showed that they can be defeated. Of course, the question that looms large is, okay, so what is the strategy that's needed? Not only to win for Mamdani to win the general election, because that still has to play out, but then most importantly, if he gets elected, what's the strategy he would need and working people in New York would need to win any of the demands? It's really important. He ran his campaign on some really bold demands, like a $30 30 by 30, which is $30 an hour by 2030.
Yep.
Free transit, taxes on the rich. All of these are bold demands that we would support. We also ran on taxing the rich, and we won the Amazon tax in Seattle, which raises hundreds of millions of dollars every year. But I'm saying that that's the main question here, because we have shown over and over again it's possible to win against the ruling class, but what it takes is a massive working
Right.
class confrontation.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to dig into that more. But before we dig into that more thoroughly, I think it's important to point out, in my opinion, there's two facets to this, right? There's what Nick called when he interviewed you yesterday, and I think he's 100% right about this. There's the propaganda win, massive, unequivocal propaganda win for an anti-apartheid one-state solution. Israel only has the right to exist as a democratic state, not as an apartheid Jewish state. For someone like that to win a mayoral primary in New York City is seismic. I can tell you that as someone who's lived in New York City half my adult life, lived in the metro area more than half my adult life. Russ is born and raised there, lives there now. It is incredible to see that happened. Just 4 years ago, Andrew Yang ran for mayor. He was up by 20 points. He was polling north of 50 points. And in May of 2021, right before primary day, about a month prior, there was the escalation in violence in Israel-Palestine. Yang put out a statement in support of Israel. The progressive members of his coalition became furious. So he backtracked, paid lip service to Palestinian rights, didn't do much to win back the progressives, but did plenty to alienate the Zionists, and he imploded. He collapsed. That campaign went down in flames. So this issue was a death trap in New York City until very, very recently. So the fact that he won and that the Zionists were not simply able to scream anti-Semite and shut the conversation down, there is no overstating how massive that is. And I think the pro-Palestine movement would be foolish not to tout that, right? Now, the second piece of it is what you're talking about, which is, okay, it's possible on occasion to defeat the ruling class at the ballot box, but how do you actually win these demands? One thing you said yesterday I thought was really important is, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, but one of his demands is a rent freeze. He's not going to wheel and deal his way to a rent freeze as the mayor. He's going to have to win it the way you won these things, which is to be an activist, to take your movement into City Hall with you. The DSA's record on that is a mixed bag. There are local chapters that have had some successes. Mid-Hudson Valley DSA, where I grew up, had some successes in blocking a fracked power plant. Like, they've done some good work here and there. But in general, they want to be a part of the club. And so I'm sorry if I rambled there. I just wanted to outline that. On the propaganda front, do you see these two as kind of like separate pieces of this, or are they one and the same?
In a way, they're one and the same and they're one and the same in the sense that such a campaign has won, in the primary because of the huge opening that exists among working people to do something to fight for them, to end the war. People are angry. One of the things that it reflects, first of all, just to back up, I think you made an important point about, with you and Russell both as having been from New York and still living in New York. I think it is, if there was any piece of evidence to be had that the Zionist lobby can be defeated, then this is it.
Right.
So this is, so we are hearing from a lot of people who are supporting our campaign that they are super excited and energized by this primary victory of Mamdani because it shows that we can win. It shows, because we are running an anti-genocide campaign, and I have a long track record of being against the Israeli state's occupation of Palestine, and we're running against this arch warmonger, and genocidal Adam Smith, and that it's possible to do that. So I think that's an overpowering statement that actually we will do working class and anti-war movements a disservice if we don't state that enough. But the two pieces you mentioned are connected in the sense that working people want to fight. The way in which they are separate is that because that's when it brings up the question of what kind of leadership are we going to have to win any of those things. And you said it right. The DSA is a mixed bag. I would probably go even further to say that in proportion with their size and with the number of elected representatives they have got elected into office, I think what they have won really just it's no comparison to what we won with one elected office and in one city, and obviously it far less sort of overt power, because they have all these powerful elected officials that like AOC. What has actually happened is that many of those elected officials, though especially the prominent ones, have ended up selling out. But it's not just about them, it's also about the many others that have been elected. That's the question, what is it that you won? And I think we have to make a distinction. I mean, there are rank and file DSA members, many of them, thousands upon thousands of them, who agree with us, and who have many of them in Seattle and also nationally have fought alongside us. Right now, many of them are donating to our campaign as well, I'm sure, because we have donations from 43 states, and Washington D.C. and Puerto Rico. So we are making it clear this is a national campaign. It has a national reach, and we have talked to many DSA members who want to fight. I'm a DSA member. I've been for years, but I don't agree with the DSA leadership in its approach of being very soft on the Democratic Party, not being willing to have the kind of political confrontational approach that we have had. And I think all of this also, just one last point is, if I mean, the kind of world we live in, it would just be complete abdication of responsibility if we drew the bar very low. What have we actually won? The bar has to be very high, of what you would call, okay, this is a victory that's commensurate with the number of elected positions you won in the name of socialism. So I think the most direct way in which this connects with what could happen with Mamdani is Mamdani's role itself, directly, and the others who have been elected in the New York State Legislature. And the New York DSA has had 8 elected positions in the state legislature, and they haven't won anything that I would say is commensurate with that kind of position. I mean, what we did was, I mean, like I was saying yesterday, your enemies, class enemies, give you the best compliments sometimes. And to quote the Seattle Times, which hates my guts, which completely hates everything I stand for, said that we came out of nowhere, myself and my fellow socialists, we came out of nowhere to commandeer the city's political agenda. That is the bar, that has to be the bar. Like, so the question is, what did DSA do with their 8 elected positions, including Mamdani? And that's the problem. And I can give you more details about what I feel was lacking there, but more to the point is to use that as an indicator of what will be needed if Mamdani wins, for working people in New York to win those demands.
Please clap.